The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
Of course, we would have liked to have seen a conviction on the sex crimes in RICO, but we understand beyond a reasonable doubt is a high standard.
I've been saying this for months. We've said it with each lawsuit that came out, and today that was proven true. The media got it wrong about Sean Combs every single day for nearly 2 years.
All eyes on New York City, and Court TV is there. We are hours away from learning Sean Diddy Combs' fate. What will his sentencing look like? An insider on the case joins us live. Witness Dawn Richard's attorney will be there in the courtroom. He's going to give us a preview of what to expect. And a Connecticut house of horrors. The woman accused of holding her stepson captive for 20 years. Back in court today. Also this hour, 1 murder, 2 juries. The Home Invasion Hoax Murder trial. What could tip the scales for the 2 defendants in this case? It's all next, right here on Opening Statements. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Ted Rollins in for Julie Grant on this Friday. So glad to have you along with us as we round out another busy week here at Court TV. Big day. Ooh, big day in New York. The sentencing of Sean Diddy Combs, so much at stake for the music mogul. Is he going to go home this afternoon? That's what he wants. That's what his defense wants. Or is he off to federal prison for a significant amount of time? We're going to dive into all of it in the hour ahead. But first, as we always do on this show, let's take a look at the Daily Docket.
It was never supposed to happen. What do you mean by not all? I'm trying to. No, it was never supposed to happen. So, you understand what I'm saying, though? Yeah, it was never supposed to happen, bro.
In Michigan, testimony resumes in the Home Invasion Hoax Murder trial, that beginning at 9 o'clock Eastern Time in Iowa. Houston Danker is going to be sentenced today for the shooting death of Ryan Cooper. Danker pled guilty to acting in concert along with Cooper's wife, Karina, to kill her husband. That getting underway at 10 o'clock Eastern. And in New Hampshire, sentencing expected 9 o'clock Eastern Time for 19-year-old Eric Sweeney. He pled guilty to the murders of his sister-in-law and 2 young nephews. But our top story this morning, all eyes on New York as Sean Diddy Combs gets set to be sentenced. Just hours from now, he'll be in this building here. It's a live look outside of the federal courthouse in Manhattan, and inside that building, Sean Diddy Combs will find out his fate. What lies ahead? Is he headed home or is he headed to federal prison? He, of course, was convicted on prostitution charges, related charges, while being acquitted of the most serious charges at trial. You remember when we got the verdict in this case? It was a victory for the defense because he was looking at a possible life sentence. He is no longer looking at that, but he is possibly looking at some significant prison time. What to expect today? Well, let's set the table here. Here's Court TV crime and justice correspondent Kelly Craft.
Prosecutors want Sean Diddy Combs to serve more than 11 years in prison. A jury found him guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Jurors acquitted him of sex trafficking and racketeering charges, avoiding a potential life sentence. The disgraced hip-hop mogul dropped to his knees and prayed in the courtroom when the verdict was read.
It's a great victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system. We had a wonderful jury. They listened to every word.
During his trial, 2 of Combs' ex-girlfriends took the stand. They said they were forced to participate in drug-fueled sex marathons with male sex workers. Singer Cassie Ventura described being beaten and pressured to take part in what they called freak-offs.
And why did you continue to engage in freak-offs with Sean?
He would ask me. He would bring it up at random times. And I think, to a point, I just didn't feel like I had much of a choice. I didn't really know what no would be or what no could turn into.
Another one of Combs' ex-girlfriends testified under the pseudonym Jane. She testified that she also felt pressured into freak-offs and described Combs as violent.
And what happened as you were about to leave through the front door?
Sean kicked me from the back of my thigh, and then I fell down on my butt. And then he picked me up in a chokehold and choked me.
The Bad Boy Records founder has been in a notorious Brooklyn jail since his arrest last year. The jail is a far cry from the life of luxury that he once lived as a producer, entrepreneur, and rapper.
Push us, 'cause we're close to the edge. We're trying not to lose our heads.
Each count Combs is guilty of carries a maximum of 10 years in prison. But his defense team is urging the judge to sentence Combs to no more than 14 months in prison. They say Combs is a changed man who has been punished enough.
Our thanks to Kelly. She'll be there at the courthouse all day long and providing us with all of the information because the federal court, no cameras. So we'll get it through Kelly, though, as soon as it happens. Let's bring in, to discuss this case, an insider, an attorney for Diddy accuser Don Richard, who we heard testify in the trial. Eric Goldson is with us. Eric, good to see you. Happy Friday morning to you. Are you going this morning to the sentencing? What are you expecting?
Yeah, absolutely. I will be heading there right after this this segment. I'm expecting an interesting morning. You know, what's so interesting and difficult to predict about what's going to happen is the judge in this case has so much discretion. The judge could decide to take exactly what defense is offering about time served. He could take what the prosecution is saying, 11 years, maybe even up to 20 years. Or the judge can do anything basically he wants. And he can also consider anything he wants. So people keep asking me, what do I expect? What do I predict? It's really hard to predict because the judge has so much discretion and can consider so much evidence that took place in the trial that it really, I think, will be sort of a surprise to everyone who's in the courtroom what he ultimately decides.
Yeah, you're right. It's a huge swath there, and it's life-changing for Sean Combs, which, depending on which way the judge pivots. The U.S. Probation Office has estimated 5 to 7 years would be appropriate. One would argue that they would be maybe more on the money because each side, of course, is going to argue for an extreme either way. What is your client, Don Richard, hoping for, looking for? What does justice mean to her?
You know, well, justice means a lot of things to Miss Richard. You know, there's, of course, she has her parallel civil suit, which is ongoing, you know, right now, and is not really affected by the acquittals, the convictions, or really anything to do with the criminal case. When it comes to the criminal case, you know, and what I think his many accusers are hoping for is just a true measure of justice, some sort of sentence that the judge considers the amount of violence that was alleged and presented and even admitted to by Mr. Combs during the trial. So I think the hope for myself and many of his accusers, and certainly my clients, is that the judge at the very least considers what he heard in that trial, considers what he saw in that trial, which was just day after day, witness after witness of really disturbing violence. That video of him and Cassie in the elevator shaft, you know, just was played so many times. So I think the hope is that he really considers the breadth of what Mr. Combs has been accused to, what Mr. Combs has actually admitted to, and takes that into account in ultimately deciding what sort of sentence is appropriate for Mr. Combs, whatever that may be.
Yeah, that elevator video is stuck in a lot of people's mind. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's listen to your client, Don Richard, a little bit through the benefit of AI, because, of course, there are no cameras in a federal courtroom. This is a bit of her testimony.
What, if any, threats would Mr. Combs make to you? Y'all are going to pay for it. It's always you do this, or else something bad will happen to you. It was always that, like a threat, that if you didn't stay in line, there was consequences. What was Mr. Combs's demeanor when he made these threats? Sometimes it was a stern, like, moment to say it, and other times it was loud, angry, violent, and like, it's mean. It was mean.
All right, that was your client. I want to look at a bit of a letter here that Sean Combs wrote to the judge in anticipation for his sentencing. It says, I humbly ask you for another chance to be a better father, another chance to be a better son, another chance to be a better leader in my community, another chance to be living a better life. I'm writing this not to gain any sympathy or pity. This experience is simply the truth of my existence and has forever changed my life. I will never commit another crime again. Eric, how much do these, all of this sway a judge? I mean, he sat through the trial. He knows the case. Does it matter what you do to try to sway his mind at this point?
It certainly does matter. Again, the judge, what's so unique about this type of sentencing is how much discretion the judge has to consider this, to not consider the letter, to give the letter a lot of weight, to give the letter some weight, but other letters more, to give the letters no weight and only, consider what he learned in the trial. So again, it's a really sort of fascinating part of this process. I do think one thing criminal judges look for is some sort of remorse, some sort of, plan to be better. Whether this judge believes that those letters are genuine for Mr. Combs or they were concocted and well written by his legal team, that's to be seen. But I certainly think the judge will consider the words of Mr. Combs, just like the judge will consider the words of Miss Ventura and the other accusers who have written letters to the judge trying to sway him in one way or another. So I think certainly it matters. It will be part of the judge's consideration, but I don't think that's the entire story. I think the judge will likely give more weight to the evidence he viewed and the evidence he saw and heard during the trial, as opposed to the words, the after-the-fact words of Mr. Combs.
Well, he didn't just write a letter. There's apparently a video has been submitted as well to the court and may be played during the hearing. It's 11 minutes long. Here's a snippet.
What are you giving to the world? I don't think you know, man.
You gotta give her a bottle then.
Know that you mean something to people. Know that you mean something to people. Like you live somewhere in people's heart.
My nose fell off. No, my lip fell off.
Eric, you don't see that very often. A produced video on behalf of a client.
Yeah, that was interesting. That's actually the first time I've seen those pieces of that video. I don't believe that's going to hold much weight. Again, a well-produced PR video, I think, is going to be of very little consideration and a very little weight to a judge, especially after the judge just sat for weeks and weeks and weeks and definitely saw a very different side to Mr. Combs, both in video, in audio, and in testimony than what we just saw in that sort of well-produced PR video for him. So I would be very surprised if that's even going to be remotely considered by the judge.
Yeah, and one would think that might even hurt because it's a bit much. Let's just put it that way. Eric Ferdali, thank you so much. You got to run because you got to get to the courthouse. We'll get a debrief from you, I'm sure. Thank you for your valuable time. Appreciate it on this Friday. We'll get a break. When we come back, more Diddy coverage as we look ahead to this is it. To the decision by the judge. A live look outside that courthouse in Manhattan. Plus, the woman accused of holding her stepson, captive for 20 years is back in court today.
Who's in the house? Who else is in here?
My stepson is in here.
How many other people?
Listen, that's it. I have 2 cats.
Everybody's out?
Yes.
But your stepson's still inside?
Yeah, he's right here.
Okay,
yes.
Come down the road. Come on.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Today, now I'm a full-time dad, and I'm gonna be there for you through everything, all of y'all.
Every Sunday, I gotta slow everything down and do the family ritual, get the family together, make sure the girls watching church.
There is a definition of grace that is more.
Pops, I love you. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for inspiring.
All right. That was the video that was submitted to the court. This is basically a PR video that Sean Diddy Combs' team put together of him looking like a good person at home with his kids and all of that. As many of us know, a jury acquitted Sean Combs of the most serious charges, racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. but they found him guilty on the prostitution-related charges. So is he spending the rest of his life in prison? No. He's likely going to spend some time in prison. The prosecution wants 11 years, 3 months. The defense says, no, he's done enough time. 14 months should do. That's basically time served. And the U.S. Probation Office says 5 to 7 years would be appropriate. The government's alleged victim 3, Virginia Gina Hoon, said that she felt pressured, like basically pushed to be a victim. And she wrote a letter supporting Sean Combs. She did not testify. The government brought her in, tried to make her feel like a victim, she claims. Ended up not calling her as a witness, but she has submitted a letter in support of Sean Combs. The big question today in our trending and true crime topic is, it's a basic one. What do you think is going to happen? Predictions. Let's bring in our all-star panel here. We've got remotely, David Bruno is with us. He's a former prosecutor. David, good morning to you. And in studio, we have attorneys Marlo Greer and Mackenzie Joy Brennan. Let's, David, start with you. What do you think is going to happen today?
I'll bring up a very important distinction that the federal sentencing guidelines have changed since November of 2024. The United States Sentencing Commission amended their sentencing guidelines so that you should not be considering acquitted conduct. And this is why the judge is really going to have to tiptoe around the facts here, because he was acquitted of the racketeering in the RICO, and he was convicted of the Mann Act. And this is where defense is really arguing that you shouldn't be using all these enhancements that both the probation and the government want the judge to take into consideration in the sentencing guidelines. So there's a lot of discretion for this court, but the sentencing guidelines are relevant to give factors to the judge to be considered. And you're going to hear a lot from the defense about the acquitted conduct versus the convicted conduct. And it's really going to be important, especially on appeal, when this thing goes up, depending on what this judge does.
Marla, that's a good point. But the elevator video, the testimony of violence during the trial, the judge heard it all. Can he not factor that in? He factored it in during the bail hearing.
And that really is the question, because although you can't consider that conduct in the acquitted charges, but can you consider everything that you heard as a whole? And these cases are difficult from my point of view in that when you kill somebody, you take their life. And when you sex traffic somebody or abuse somebody sexually, I believe that you take their soul. Is the judge going to hear about all of the soul stealing and consider that within the sentencing guidelines? And while we've heard about discretion, I really feel like the sentencing guidelines do tie a judge's hands. And so maybe he can consider all of this, but in a way his hands are tied because it can only be within those guidelines.
Mackenzie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the judge's hands are especially tied because it's a case of this scale. There are so many eyes on him, and he's been very clear about staying within the letter of the law so far. I do think things like violence, and the judge said in the bail hearing, domestic violence is violence, that showed that the judge does consider that as a potential aggravating factor, and that could come into play in sentencing, even within the Mann Act, within the sentencing guidelines. I know there's also some debate about how they apply number of violations under this Mann Act conviction, and whether they, as the prosecution urges, look at each action with these victims. And if you do that, you could have hundreds of violations within those two convictions. Or, as the defense is urging, just the two.
At the end of the day, he hired the Punisher to come travel around first class to different places to do weird things and sit in the corner and watch. At some point, if he's not a celebrity, if he's not Sean Diddy Combs, and if there's no elevator video, is he doing any time for being a weirdo?
But I think that's the point, is that he isn't the average violator of these laws, that he is still a risk to the community potentially if he's not made to give some recompense for what he's been doing all these years.
And of course, the elevator video trumps it all. Sentencing, of course, will be today, but Diddy has more civil trouble on the way here as well. Deontay Nash, a former stylist for Diddy, spoke with CBS this morning in an interview, and Nash described a hostile environment while working under the music mogul.
You say you were strangled on several occasions.
Several. Mm-hmm.
Was there ever a point where you thought, I could die?
The whole time. I said, he gonna kill us. He is going to kill us.
You talk in the lawsuit about literally having a to-go bag and cash just in case you had to go into hiding?
Mm-hmm. It has some underwear, some shorts, a tank top, a hoodie, and, you know, just some Vans.
All right, he stated, did Nash, that he worked for Combs between 2008, 2018, filed the lawsuit last week alleging all of that physical and sexual abuse. Sean Combs denies it. David, Bruno, there are so many voices that have come out that sort of give you the imagery of a monster, a guy walking around and just raining terror on his inner circle and people around him. How much of that factors in, even, or should it not? Because the judge knows it all. He's seen it all. At the end of the day, he's the judge, and he's supposed to follow the law, but then also he's a human being protecting society.
Yeah, well, in the sentencing guidelines, these are some things that the government's arguing should be considered, like his leadership role, his coercion, the fraud, multiple victims. I mean, certainly it was Diddy's status that put him in this situation to be able to use this pressure. And for me, Ted, this PR video is the epitome. It shows the example of the status that Diddy used throughout these crimes. I think it's a bad move by the defense, honestly, to present this. It's not something we often see in the federal sentences. We don't see PR videos, and it really does stand for the status of Diddy.
Yeah, and Marlo, to that point, this video is ridiculous, isn't it, in a court of law? I mean, you're going to sway a judge with a guy at home with his kids?
My question is, Diddy is using his children almost in a way that he used the other women, right? He wants to say, hey, I'm a dad. Look at my children. Look at how great I am, not taking all of the other things into consideration. And my question is, would Diddy want someone to do to his children what he did to these women? So is that going to sway the judge? Because obviously we know he's putting forth his best face.
Right, and Mackenzie, to that point, the judge has seen the Cassie video, seeing him at home with his kids acting really nice. Like, okay, if you're gonna, let's see the video of when dad is mad and the kids are annoying the heck out of him. This is ridiculous. A judge is gonna see right through it, and they might be digging the wrong way on this one.
I agree. I think that it might backfire because this judge was not born yesterday. He has seen all this evidence and has also gotten letters from Cassie and I believe Deontay Nash as well about the fear that they will live in if Diddy returns to the community. So you can play with your kids for a PR video all you want, but we all know that that's staged at this point, and the judge is included in that.
David, do you think this comes from Sean Combs saying, hey, make a video? Because I can't believe Tenny Garagos, Mark Agnifilo, these are very experienced and brilliant attorneys. They did a great job arguing this case, and you could argue they won. I can't believe they said, yeah, great idea.
I'm with you. I can't believe it either. I wouldn't have been on this boat without a doubt. This is Diddy at his best. PR. I mean, just think about what that means. Public relations. And that is not what the court of law is about. It is not what the federal sentencing guidelines and the federal sanctions and penalties are about. Bad move by the team.
All right, quickly, before we hit a break, a number. What's he going to get? Starting with you, David.
I think he's going to come in where the probation department's recommendation is. I think it's going to be anywhere between 70 and 87 months. They're the most independent recommendation between the two sides.
Marlo?
I want it to be so much more than that, but I'm with Mr. Bruno. It's going to be in there. My only hope is that it's above 7 years.
Above 7. Okay, Mackenzie.
I was going to say 7 years, so we'll do an over-under, and I'll say 7. So.
Okay. All right, we shall see. We'll have a live report from our Kelly Craft starting at 9 o'clock and throughout the day. Everybody stay put. We've got more to talk about this hour still to come on opening statements.
My dog
Someone's right here. Come on.
my dog.
I know. Come on.
I'm coming.
You're seeing it. Got one victim right here.
Oh, this lady's a doozy. The woman accused of holding her stepson captive in a house of horrors. She's back in court today, and you have to hear what she's asking the judge for. Plus, 2 juries, 2 defendants, 1 murder. We're talking about the Home Invasion Hoax Murder trial. Lots ahead. Stay with us.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Welcome back. The Connecticut woman accused of allegedly holding her stepson captive for years is back in the spotlight this morning as we look ahead to her court appearance this afternoon. Kimberly Sullivan is charged with assault, kidnapping, unlawful restraint, cruelty to persons, and reckless endangerment. She's pled not guilty. Her 32-year-old stepson, known as S, weighed 68 pounds when he was rescued from her house in February. This is after, reportedly, he set the house on fire so he could be saved. Here's Sullivan on body cam at the scene of the fire.
Who's in the house? Who else is in here?
My stepson is in here.
How many other people? Listen,
That's it. I have 2 cats.
Everybody's out?
Yes.
But your stepson's still inside?
Yeah, he's right here.
Okay,
yes.
come out. Come down the road. Come on.
There's some Donna Adelson vibes there. The defense plans to bring up 3 motions at today's 2 o'clock hearing, and it's hard to get your head around this one. She wants to go home, retrieve some belongings, get her GPS bracelet off, and then, this is the kicker, she wants to know the address of where her accuser, the stepson, lives. And they're going to ask a judge about that. Still with us this morning, Marlo Greer, Mackenzie Joy Brennan, and David Bruno is still with us. Nope, David's not here. So it's us 3. We got to tackle this together. All right, Marlo, let's start with this last ask. Why would you ask this? What's the behind this question? I want to know where he lives so I can send him a letter, apologize.
At this point, I mean, I feel like I could lose 68 pounds, right? This is insane. I don't know why they would do this. And especially all at the same time. I mean, let's talk about strategery. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. If you want to get your GPS bracelet off, yes, make that motion. And then let's say 2 months from now, come up with some valid argument that you need this address. The judge is going to have a 2-month memory, but at least it's not all at the same time because it's so incredibly suspect at this point.
Yeah, as we are told, is doing well. He had lived quite the life, Mackenzie, and if any of this is true, she's a monster.
Yeah.
68 pounds.
My goodness. I think one of the arguments that her defense team made in one of these motions, and I agree, that pairing them all together, it really begs a question, even if she doesn't have ill motives at this point, why do you want the bracelet off and his location at the same time? It's very concerning, but the defense said that making this a case where his address was sealed makes it look like a severe domestic violence case, and there's no precedent for that in Connecticut law. Now, my response to that, and I think a lot of people's, would be, yeah, there's no precedent for what this woman has done. That doesn't mean that it doesn't meet the grounds of severe domestic violence.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a statement from S. He says, "Please call me S. This is not the name given to me by my parents when I was born. I will use that name as I reclaim control over my life and my future. I am the survivor of more than 20 years of captivity and domestic abuse. I was held prisoner in my home from the time I was taken out of the 4th grade at age 11 until 2 months ago." This is a while ago. This sentence was this was given at age 31 when I purposely set fire to help set me free. Now, this case hasn't gone to trial yet. There's another side to this story, and that will come out. But again, I want to know where he's living, and I want this ankle brace. To me, that's off. That means I want to go over there and reclaim control over this person. Possibly any judge in their right mind would say a hard no. In fact, after that, I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to reconsider the bail here. Because she's she's calling her attorney and saying, I got to get this ankle bracelet off, and I got to find out where he lives.
I don't see what her attorneys are thinking, that this was a good idea to file all of this. And I think it also reflects on her mental state. What is going on in your mind that you still believe that this is okay? That you still believe that your stepson may even want to speak with you? There has to be some severe mental health issues going on here.
Absolutely. And it, this is out of a Stephen King novel in terms of if it's true, and these are all allegations, but he set fire to the house so that someone could come and get him. One would argue, well, he's 31 years old, and this is a woman who is leaving the house and coming back. How could he have not just gotten out? How could he have not gotten himself out? Why go to such an extreme? However, if what he's saying is true, it is very disturbing. So there could be mental illness on both sides here.
If you weigh 68 pounds, I think it's hard to do anything of your own volition if you're that weak and if you're in this coercive control environment since potentially age 11. And it's really hard for me to picture any reasonable explanation for this that she will be able to present. But it does show, the tough game that attorneys play when your client is maybe not of sound mind and potentially pushing for motions like this. Where do you draw the line?
Is this a case that goes to trial, or do you think there's a deal in the works?
I think this case will go to trial. It just doesn't seem to me like there's client control here. That's really what we call that if an attorney objectively is looking at this and you have filed something, is there client control? Is this something that she was pushing for? And so they acquiesced. If that is the case right now, I can't imagine that there's going to be any plea agreement that this woman is going to accept. I don't think she understands the gravity of her actions. Of course, we always use the word allegedly, but none of this that's going on right now tells me that we're going to see something reasonable down the line.
What do you do, Mackenzie, with a client that wants something and this is a bad idea and you try to not go over the cliff?
Yeah, I think that there's some interesting psychological play that has to happen here. And obviously we have seen cases where somebody starts out very staunchly, I will not plead out, I am not guilty, I won't have this on my name. But as time goes on, as bills pile up, as bad press accrues, I think that it is possible that somebody does at least understand that there's some public backlash at the very least. Even
it's the downside of bail, though, because you could do a little time in the county jail. Right. You're like, okay, I could do another 5 years, but I don't want 25, 30, 40. She's out on bail.
I really think the problem here is that you're using your rational mind. And I don't believe there are rational minds here, at least not when we're talking about her. Perhaps her attorneys have rational minds, and I assume they do. We are very rational, logical people, but that's the thing, is that you're looking at this in a way that a rational human being would look at it. I do not believe that this woman is a rational human being. She doesn't understand. So what you would think and what we would think would happen is just not what's going through her head.
Yeah. She's in court this afternoon in the state of Connecticut. Marla Green, Mackenzie Joy Brennan, thank you. You guys will be around, hanging around Court TV today, helping us through a busy Friday, including the big Diddy sentencing up in New York. Coming up next on Opening Statements, will 2 juries tip the scales in the Home Invasion Hoax Murder trial?
Or DTE, we're checking for gas leaks.
That's coming up. 2 juries, 2 defendants, 1 murder. Boy, this case is something else. Stay with us.
This is the Court TV podcast.
They came to the door and said that they were DTE employees and that they were checking for a gas leak.
A completely disturbing and unforgivable act, in my opinion.
We're DTE. We're checking for gas leaks.
Mr. Hernandez and Mrs. Zawago came into the house, and my husband was going to show them where the basement was.
When we asked him why only one victim was killed, he became irate and yelled something along the lines of, "What do you mean, why did we kill only one? It wasn't supposed to go down like that."
Now for what's tipping the scales. The home invasion hoax murder. It's a horrible case. Unusual fact here, we have two juries, two defendants, Carlos Hernandez and Joshua Zuazu, accused of murdering this man, 72-year-old Sam Murray, the owner of a jewelry store. They allegedly posed as utility workers. You saw the video there to gain entrance into his home, said, "Hey, we're here checking for gas leaks." These two thought, "Oh boy, gas leak, we better let them in." And they look legit. They got the vest on, the clipboard, and the name tag. So they let him in, send him down to the old basement, and that is where Sam was murdered. Linda Murray was beaten and tied up with duct tape, but she survived and she testified.
Hernandez was binding my hands and my ankles together with duct tape.
And is that against your will?
Yes.
Okay. Did you notice if any of your items were taken that day?
Yes.
What was taken from you?
Oh, when Zuazas came downstairs, I saw that he was carrying a drawer from my jewelry box.
Okay. And that was without your consent?
Yes.
Was there anything taken from your purse that was without your consent?
Yes.
What was taken from your purse?
$300.
One of the things that really caught our eye in this case is the fact that the trial has not one but two juries. So how might the multiple juries tip the scales here? Here to discuss, former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney David Bruno and chief trial attorney for Muskegon County, Michigan, prosecutor's office, Matt Roberts. Matt, let's start with you here. The reason that we have two juries, or two defendants we see a lot, sometimes three, sometimes more. Two juries means that one jury can't hear everything that the other jury hears, right? Because you're talking about two defendants and you don't want it bleeding over. How logistically difficult is it to navigate? And is there danger that something could happen here that promotes reason for appeal?
Well, good morning. It's great to be here. Yeah, it's a logistical nightmare to have two juries, primarily for no other reason than courtrooms are not set up to have two juries. Typically, you have one jury box. You'll have 14 or 15 seats for alternate jurors, but you're not really set up to have 30 jurors or 28 to 30 jurors in a courtroom. You need two deliberation rooms as well because they have to deliberate separately. You need to make sure that you have, as a prosecutor, in your mind exactly what evidence is going to come into both juries and what needs to go before one, and be ready to address that with the judge. So definitely potential for error there. If something comes out in front of one of the juries that's not supposed to, it can be error for whichever jury that is for that defendant. So a lot of landmines there for this prosecution and this court to handle.
David, what's your overall take on this case?
Well, the take is, this is a felony murder prosecution, and Michigan's a little different, as my counterpart will tell you. Typically, it's like a strict liability felony murder, meaning you go in for a home invasion or a burglary, and a death occurs during the course. The co-conspirators are all on the hook for the murder. But Michigan's different. It was People versus Aaron in 1980 that threw in a malice requirement that actually each co-conspirator has to either have an intent to kill, an intent to commit serious bodily injury, or the wanton and willful disregard that could lead to those things. Hernandez here is pointing the finger at the co-defendant, saying it wasn't my intention to kill, and that I didn't have that. So the malice is at issue in Hernandez's case. But honestly, what's going to tip the scales in this one? It's the duct tape. because the duct tape is the reason for the death. It was asphyxiation. His oxygen was cut off by the duct tape. And both defendants' DNA is actually on the duct tape, and they're both on video purchasing the duct tape. So I think the state is really going to be focusing on the duct tape to tie Hernandez in as well on that wanton, reckless disregard prong of malice.
Matt, first of all, did you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, certainly it does pose a challenge, but it's really a challenge for the defense too to explain, well, I wasn't in on what was going on. Well, you still went in to rob the person, and like my colleague was saying there, that third prong of malice is really useful for prosecutors because it does allow us the opportunity to prove an intent there, where you're creating a situation where death or great bodily harm is a likely result, and tied directly to the duct tape. It really just sort of puts it over the top, I think, for both of these defendants. Absolutely.
David, the DNA is on the duct tape, but Fernandez, he basically says, well, he went down to the basement a little bit, but then I left, I came back up, dealt with mom, with the wife, and then Zazu comes up, and he does have a couple things going for him in that you get the police interview where he says, what? He seems shocked that someone's dead, and it's never supposed to happen that way. And then you have the wife who is brilliant on the witness stand. She is just a play-by-play announcer of what transpired, and she basically says, I'm up there with the fat guy, Fernandez, and the other guy's downstairs, and then he comes up, and the blood is on him. And then that's when she's asking, where is my husband? Where is my husband? Does Fernandez have a chance here? And how does he do it?
That's the only reason that this is a dual jury. I mean, that's the only hope that Hernandez has. It's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. We're talking about Diddy and his acquittals as well, on some surprising acquittals as well. It's a high standard, but again, Hernandez is coming in with this egregious home invasion. The preparation was done, so his credibility is certainly going to be at issue, and the jury can completely disregard Hernandez's statement on that point too and convict him.
Matt, I know you don't like defense attorneys because you're a prosecutor, but let's say you were representing him. How do you successfully separate your guy from that guy and get your story across? Does he take the stand?
Yeah, you almost have to, again, because like you said, the wife has done such an excellent job kind of laying this out, and the evidence is otherwise so overwhelming. He's there, he's posing as a DTE worker, he's trying to get into the house. You almost have to take the stand, so you really just have to have this belief, like, I'm going to be able to convince the jury that I just really did not want this to happen. So I think that's what has to happen here. I think the defense attorney is doing everything they can with having the multiple juries. Like David said, it's really the only way to get that point across when you've got both of these guys charged. Tough case, though. Tough jury, tough to prove to this jury that you didn't have some type of intent when you're in there with the duct tape and all those other things. Absolutely.
Yeah, and just the scheme, the way that they orchestrated it, they went to such lengths to trick these people. And these folks being old, I don't think that fact. I think anybody would potentially fall for this, the way they pulled it off, and then to get in there to try to steal their belongings under this ruse that there was a gas leak that they needed to deal with. It's just deplorable. David Bruno, Matt Roberts, thank you. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks for your valuable time.
That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.